Oh, hi, boss. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm just looking over the tape from Man City last time, seeing where we can potentially improve, maybe. Just, try and close things up and see if we can sneak above them in the group. All right, that. Okay, so I can explain this a little bit. So after John got back from his holiday, he was talking about this leprechaun that he met, right? Okay, and then after that, he was talking about the photos. So I figured the photos were of his leprechaun, and he was calling it Little John, or John Jr., sorry. And I thought he was talking about the leprechaun. Then on awards night, the slideshow was just of his junk. So I should have seen that when he was calling it John Jr. Yeah, so look, I don't really want any issues from this if possible, because we do have these last two games of the Champions League group stage left. To be fair, I think the people at the bar were more impressed than offended, so consider that as well. So I think I'll just have a word to him about keeping his third leg hidden away, and then we'll just deal with that, and we can play him in the next few games. Is that all right? Yep. Yeah, I'll have a serious word to him. Don't worry. Yep. We'll need the luck. Thank you. Okay. Yep. See ya. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 102 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode we do have the last two games of the Champions League group stage at home to Manchester City, followed by an away trip to RB Leipzig to see if we can jump above Man City, and we'll also have the draw for the first knockout round of the Champions League at the start of 2030 as well. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But this is what the group does look like going into the first game of today's episode. If you missed that one game yesterday against Dinamo Moscow and our end of season awards, I'll leave a link to that in the top right corner. There has been an early kickoff yet again, RB Leipzig winning 3-1, so they are in pole position to qualify for the Europa League. But in yesterday's episode, that win over Dynamo did mean we are guaranteed second place in the group. We do need to win both of these games in today's episode if we are to jump above Manchester City. That is extremely unlikely because, of course, a few episodes ago now, we did lose to those guys 6-2 in our first game of the group stage. So we're going to need quite a bit of a turnaround from that performance that we did put out that day. Obviously, the red card in the second half to Alejandro Meza did not help, but still don't think we were going to get close to those guys on that occasion. So going into this game coming up against Manchester City, we have just made a few little tweaks to the tactic just to see if this might potentially quieten them down. Obviously, that as well as this game being played at home. So what we are trying is a version of our vertical tiki-taka. Absolutely no changes to the roles or the formation here. Still using our first choice 11 as well, but what we have done is just change a few things about how we do operate in possession. We are not going to be as expressive as we usually are, and we're also changing up how we are in transition. Instead of using a counter press, we are going to regroup. Those two things we did change late on in that first game against Manchester City, and it did seem to help just stem the flow a little bit. So that's the first thing that we do have up our arsenal for today's episode for this first game against Manchester City. Just see if that could keep the scoreline a little bit more respectable. We are still going to play with a positive mindset. The other thing that we have loaded up here is a Catenaccio tactic, but we'll see how we're going. Haven't had too much time training this one up. Maybe that is something that we can use next season if the same situation does apply, but we are going to try out the slightly modified version of the vertical tiki-taka here against Manchester City. As you can see on screen, we have no injury concerns going into this one at all, at full strength with our lineup for this one. So we'll come back shortly and see if we can keep ourselves in the hunt to top this group, taking on Man City from the Laugalas Villa. And here are the team sheets for this game against Man City at the Laugalas Villa. As we ran through before, we are at full strength and more or less full strength on the bench as well. There is Man City. They come into this one in great form. A little bit changed from when we did meet them last time. No front two of Adeyemi and Haaland. This time just Fati and Haaland. That's a massive downgrade for them. You're right, and we'll see what we can do here with that slightly modified tactic. See if we can still keep ourselves in the hunt to top this group. And up to the 16-minute mark for our first highlight of this game, they try and play a ball forward there to Man City, and it does fall in the hands of Husavik. Hopefully today does not get absolutely ruined by Erling Haaland like he did in the first game of this group stage, but so far has been quite an even game. So I think so far this tactic does seem to be working, and we look to play out from the back here. Hopefully can keep the ball a little bit better than we did the first time we played against these guys, seeing as we are going to be a little bit less expressive. But Caviglia plays that out to Frederick Larsen, and we are inside the opposition half. Rubio, nice ball over there for Zimmerman. It's a tight angle, tries to take on the shot, hits the side netting, but that does even up the stats after about 20 minutes, still locked up here at 0-0. And up to the 39-minute mark for our next highlight is a free kick here for Man City. Duplisco heads that away, but Ansu Fati gets on the end of it. We can't quite get possession back as he does play that back to Ruben Dias, but this tactic at the moment seems to be working quite well because we are actually on top of these guys stats-wise. Hopefully we get some reward for that soon as they do play that back to Ederson in goal these days. He is 38 years old, I believe, so he is definitely a player they will need to replace soon. Manchester City, but they try and get something going here down the right-hand side. De Jong out to Erling Haaland, who got a hat-trick in the first game against us. Nice ball over the top there from Hamilton for Erling Haaland. He chips the goalkeeper, and yet again he gets a goal against his international teammate in goal for us there in Husavik, and that is a little bit disappointing because this game so far had been quite even, but Man City just control position quite well there. Nice ball that from Hamilton. Duplisco can't quite pick up Haaland, and with 5 minutes to go in the first half, we find ourselves trailing by 1-0. And that is half-time in this 1-0 down thanks to that late strike there from Erling Haaland. But as you can see by the stats and by the XG graph, slightly edging things in this game. We just need a few more shots on target, so not too disappointed with how we are playing, just need to hit the target a little bit more. We're going to make one change here at halftime. Frederick Larsen, 6.4, has picked up a yellow card. We're not going to muck around too much with yellow card players in today's episode, seeing as we don't want any suspensions going in to the start of next week. So Chaka Traore to come on for Larsen, and hopefully we can grab an equaliser and keep playing well in the second half, 1-0 down. And just past the 50-minute mark, first highlight here of the second half is a corner in our favour. Thiago Paulo gets on the end of that. His header goes just over the bar, still 1-0 down, 50 minutes into this game. And up to the 57-minute mark, we're still doing quite well on this one stats-wise, but just not hitting the target enough, and we'll go a few players out there on poor ratings up front. So we are going to make our last two substitutions with just over a half hour left. Benjamin Rubio will come off for Fabio Mariano, and it will be Porstein Arnason to come on for Zimmerman. 30 minutes left and a little bit of extra change to try and grab an equaliser here at the Laugardas Villa. Now up to the 82-minute mark for our next highlight. We are still right in this game, still slightly outperforming Man City at the moment, and Fabio Mariano does get on the ball. We are playing a slightly more direct style now and also a higher tempo as we do try and grab an equaliser, but so far this tactic encouraging signs against the competition favourites. It is fair to say this might be quite a useful one to use when we do take on big teams. No penalty there for that challenge on Arnason, I believe. I thought that might potentially be one, and now Man City do potentially here have a chance to get something going on the counter-attack, and Raheem Sterling in behind our defence. Can he seal it? Tries to chip the goalkeeper, comes off the upright. Interesting action there down the other end. Thought we might be in for a penalty there. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We get the ball back. Can we get something going here down our left-hand side? Unfortunately, we cannot. 5 minutes left, still 1-0 down. And we are into injury time in this one. Unfortunately, doesn't look like we are going to be able to grab an equaliser, but that was a very even matchup there against Manchester City. Certainly a lot more encouraging than when we did take them on in the first game of this year's group stage. A much better performance, albeit we do still suffer defeat, but this time only by 1-0. So that tactic, as I said earlier, when we do take on the big powerhouses of European football, might be worth persevering with, not deterring too much from how we do usually play with our vertical tiki-taka, but just changing a few things. We're just that little bit more conservative. It did seem to pay off there against Man City, despite us ending up on the wrong side of a 1-0 defeat. That does mean that we are going to finish second in our group, so we'll come back shortly prior to our last game of the group stage against RB Leipzig and have a look at the state of the other groups and see who we might be looking to play in the first knockout round of the Champions League at the start of next week. And we have gone forward right before the start of our last game of the group stage away at RB Leipzig, but before that we are just going to check in on how the other groups in the Champions League do look, because we are guaranteed to finish second in our one, so we can start looking at who our opposition might be for the upcoming draw for the first knockout round of the Champions League. We will be taking on a team who have topped their groups. So the top four groups have been completed. Bayern Munich, Man United, Inter, and Barcelona have topped groups A through D. Out of those, considering our history against Barcelona the last few seasons, I would probably prefer those guys if we did have a choice. But making our way down to the three groups apart from ours that are yet to be completed, Real Madrid are going to top that group. So that is another one of our potential opposition. Group F is going to be a race between Milan and Nice, because Liverpool are not going to get out of that group. So we've got one up there over the team that did beat us in the Europa League final last season, albeit probably would have preferred to win that trophy. And now looking at that, maybe we should have actually bet them instead of lose to them, now that I'm thinking about that a little bit more. But nonetheless, we go forward a little bit further than Liverpool will in the Champions League this season. But we could play Milan or Nice, depends on the results there in that final match week. And PSG already guaranteed to top Group G. So just having a quick look at the teams who are going to top their groups there, probably would be looking out of the bottom side of the draw maybe to play the winner of that Group F between Milan and Nice. And out of the top half of the draw, I think Barcelona, just because we have been quite close to beating those guys at home in the group stages over the past few seasons. We have made a few little changes for this game coming up against RB Leipzig, thanks to yellow cards and little minor injuries, and we'll come back shortly, run you guys through the team sheets and see if we can pick up our fourth win of the group stage in our last game of it as we take on RB Leipzig from the Red Bull Arena. And here are the team sheets for this last game of the Champions League group stage. RB Leipzig there look like they've made a few changes since we did last play them, maybe thinking in similar situation to us here. We have made a few changes. Duplisco is not starting. He has a yellow card situation. We're not going to risk that. Corbo will start. That is because Ramadan has picked up a little niggly injury. That does mean Bedrazicki is on the bench, but we are taking no chances with yellow card players in this game, but hopefully we can still pick up a win away here in Germany. And we do have an early highlight here, and it is going to be a free kick for RB Leipzig. Of course, we did beat these guys 2-0 earlier in the group stage, but this time they get off to an absolute flyer, and Alves says thank you very much, puts that into the top left corner. Husavik maybe should have kept that one out. He was positioned a fair way to the right there. It wasn't completely in the top left corner, but nonetheless, a very good free kick there from RB Leipzig. They take an early 1-0 lead, albeit shortly off the back of that, it is a throw-in, and they give possession straight back to us, so we could get a chance here to maybe grab an early equaliser to make up for that free kick. Satole tries to play a pass, it rebounds back to Galtason, and we are able to keep possession. Zimmerman makes his way towards the middle of the box. Frederick Larsson from a tight angle buries that in the right-hand side of goal, and after 2 minutes, it is already 1-1 here at the Red Bull Arena. Thankfully, we make up for that goal that we did concede from that free kick. Good short passing, especially after we did nearly lose possession there with Satole. Nice ball there from Zimmerman for Frederick Larsson. Tucks it away, 1-1 here after only 3 minutes. And up to the 12-minute mark here, it is a free kick for Leipzig. They pump that deep to Husavik, something I should have mentioned earlier as well. We are back to using that tactic that we do use for most of this group stage and for most of this save. That other tactic we did use in the first game of today's episode. We are just going to save up for when we do play some teams who should really be beating us quite comfortably, but a potential chance here for Zimmerman. But unfortunately, we can't quite link up there down the right-hand side, but we do get the ball back there from that clearance. It's Alejandro Meza. It's a chance here from a tight angle for Larsson into the side netting. Still 1-1, approaching the 15-minute mark. And up to the 37-minute mark for our next highlight, not too long before half-time. We are still locked up here at 1-1, but we do have possession. Can we grab a goal to put us in front here just before half-time? This would be quite a useful win, because we'll check in on it soon, but Phil Kerr not helping us out too much down in the Conference League. So the more wins that we can get before we do enter the knockout stage of the Champions League, the better. Not too sure if it's actually going to be that good for the coefficient, making the knockouts of the Champions League compared to what it would be making the knockouts of the Europa League instead, especially if you compare it to what we did do in that competition last year when we did make the final. It's a good chance there for Leipzig. We do get a foot in there. Bit of sloppy play from us. Hudson-Odoi, great chance, puts it wide. We nearly gift them a goal there. Luckily, still 1-1, 5 minutes shy of halftime. And that is halftime in this one. It is 1-1 as we do go into the second half. Pretty even game, slightly edging things, you could argue, in terms of shots on target and possession, albeit they do have the higher XG, so hard not to complain with that scoreline. As I said at the start of this one, we're going to take no chances with yellow cards. So Maurizio Goffi coming on for Caviglia and Ian Carlo to come on for John Matthews. And hopefully we can grab a winning goal here in the second half, locked up at 1-1. And up to the 53-minute mark, we have our first highlight here of the second half. Early yellow card to Maurizio Goffi so far, so that was really useful taking off Caviglia. Not, but we'll see what happens here in the second half. And from this first highlight where we are on the ball, Satole plays that back for Galtason, back to Corbo on the halfway line. And Thiago Polo plays that back to Corbo, having a good game back in the first rotation. Doesn't get that much game time for us in this lineup now, with Ali Ramadan being the first choice backup, but Frederick Larsen just in behind the defence here. Can he square this? Does for Zimmerman, but his header just over the bar and straight down the middle. Still 1-1, 10 minutes into the second half. And shortly off the back of that last highlight, we are back down the other end for a RB Leipzig corner. I think that was Frederick Larsen who dealt with that, but Caligari will get possession back here for Leipzig as they do look for a goal to send them back in the lead here at home at the Red Bull Arena in Germany. They play that back to Peter in goal, and he will play that back to their goalkeeper, a different goalkeeper to the one that we did meet in the first game when we did beat them 2-0 at home, but some good passing. Elvis, another chance here, tight angle just into the side netting. Still 1-1, approaching the hour mark. And now up to the 64-minute mark, it's another throw-in here for RB Leipzig. They're starting to just get potentially on top of us here in the second half, so we'll see what comes from this highlight. And they do start to play it forward. Elvis, the goal scorer from that free kick earlier, Madrid to Hudson-Odoi. It's a long shot from him. That is a very important save, that one from Husavik. That did look like it was going into the top right corner, but a strong hand on that just deflects that off goal. The corner they put over the bar. Still 1-1 after 65 minutes. And up to the 73-minute mark, we are going to make our last substitution here. Benjamin Rubio just struggling out there a little bit on a 6.5, so Fabio Maliano to come on for him and hopefully grab us a goal to win this last game of the group stage. And very shortly off the back of that last substitution, it is another throw-in here on the left-hand side for RB Leipzig. They play a long ball forward, but Thiago Polo able to tidy that up. And can we get something going here straight off the back of that last substitution with Fabio Maliano up front instead of Benjamin Rubio? Satole, nice ball that for Mariano. Great pass for Zimmerman, but a good save there by the RB Leipzig goalkeeper. We'll see if anything does come from the subsequent corner, but that was a great chance with 15 minutes left to grab a winning goal in this one. Paulo with a header just over the bar. Still 1-1 inside the last 15 minutes. And we do have a throw-in here inside the last 10 minutes. Ian Carlo links up with Fabio Maliano, and we do some good short passing here. On the right-hand side, Maurizio Goffi, thanks to some help from the underside of the crossbar, it finds its way into the back of the net, and that could do the job for us to make sure that we do win 4 of our 6 games in the group stage of the Champions League this year. It's a well-worked move down the right-hand side from that throw-in. A lot of players on yellow cards linking up there, and Maurizio Goffi just gets a little bit of help there from the underside of the crossbar. 2-1 Völsungur with just under 10 minutes left. And we are in injury time in this one. We did change some things around to be more similar to the tactic that we did use against Man City late in this one, and we hold on for a 2-1 win at the Red Bull Arena. That means that we have won all of our games except those 2 against Manchester City. So in the end, we qualify second out of this group very, very comfortably. Nice way to finish off the group stages with a win, even though RB Leipzig will feel pretty hard done by their goal coming from the free kick, but we were very clinical with limited chances, completely the opposite of what has been the case in the previous games against Man City and against Dinamo Moscow. But we qualify second in the end extremely comfortably, and we'll come back shortly and see who we do get in the first knockout round draw for the Champions League at the start of next week. Okay, so we haven't quite got up to the draw for that first knockout round just yet. A few other things coming up that I thought might be interesting to show you guys in terms of club vision. But before we do get into that, we will have a look at how the groups did end up in the Champions League, the teams that we can end up playing against as we ran through before that game against RB Leipzig. From the top half of the draw are Bayern, Man United, Inter Milan, and Barcelona. But we are going to have a good look here at what happened in the bottom side of the draw, seeing as that was what we were waiting to be determined. Real Madrid topping Group E, as we were able to see would be the case. Milan did beat Nice, so they top Group F. That could be our opposition. Interesting to also see out of that group, Partizan defeated Liverpool at Anfield, and Liverpool miss out on the knockouts of European football entirely. So that is a big upset there. Liverpool finishing bottom of a group with AC Milan, Nice, and FK Partizan. Those guys proving a very, very tricky opposition in the Champions League, as we do know from last season, where they did beat Juventus in the group that we were in. And in Group G, we could be taking on Paris Saint-Germain. They end up winning all of their games exactly like what Manchester City did in our group. So that is the opposition we could get in the upcoming first knockout round draw for the Champions League. But back to the inbox, an interesting little change here to what we have for our club vision for the upcoming season. They want us to spend the original transfer budget, that is around the £24 million mark. So we have got a lot of spending to do in this upcoming transfer window, both in February and in the middle of next year as well. Obviously, none of those changes are going to be able to impact us for the knockouts of the Champions League, because when the transfer window does open up in Iceland, but potentially more usefully for the Builder Nation side of this challenge, they have got rid of the part of the 5-year plan where it does say they would like us to make a profit on all transfer dealings. That could be quite useful, getting rid of that one, because it can mean we can just offload players to fellow Icelandic clubs if they are not up to standard here at Völsungur. So that could actually be very, very useful for the Builder Nation side of this challenge in terms of what they expect us to do next season when the islands dealt in, reach the playoff for the Champions League. That is the qualifying playoff, and we've also got some improvements on the go for both our training facilities and our youth facilities as well. I do think we're supposed to be having a stadium expansion, but no word on that just yet. But that could be quite useful, getting rid of that doing transfer business for a profit, especially considering the Builder Nation side of the save. Usually that's something you usually try and do in most FM saves anyway, but for this challenge, it could be quite useful if we do make a loss on some of the transfers that we do make, if it does help strengthen some of the other Icelandic teams. But we should be coming back shortly for the Champions League first knockout round draw. And one more stop before we do get up to that Champions League draw, just as I was mentioning before about wondering what had happened to the plan. Stadium expansion, there is the confirmation of the plan. It is going to be increased by only 1,000 supporters. That is not quite what we were after. I believe minimum capacity for Champions League is 5,000, so it's still not going to be enough for us to host Champions League games here. So that is a little bit of a bummer. I think we might have been better off just building a new stadium, but we are going to have a slightly expanded one come around this time next season. The work has just got underway, but it will take an entire year to be completed here at the Husavik Heroes, expanding the capacity from 2,000 to 3,000 supporters. And we are about to enter the first knockout round draw for the Champions League for the first time. But before we do get into that, we'll just have a quick update on how Fylkir did get on down in the Conference League, as we did check in on in yesterday's episode. They weren't looking too great down in Group E, and indeed if we go and have a look at just that group itself, you can see they only finished up on the 1 point from that very first game they did have against Nimes, unfortunately off the back of that, losing the remaining 5 games, including their last 2, 3-1 away at Nimes and 3-0 at home to Real Sociedad. So we didn't get too much help there from Fylkir in the end. Maybe having a team like HK in that competition instead would have been more useful, but that is HK's own fault, because Fylkir got past them in the third qualifying round of the Europa League. But Fylkir are out of Europe after only picking up 1 point there in that Conference League group. And while we are looking at the European side of things, we will also go and have a look at the coefficient table. And unfortunately, we might be in for a drop this season, because if you have a look at where we are at the moment in 14th, we are on a 5.7. That means we would be making just a ever so slight drop down to 33.7 at the end of this season. There are some nations behind us, like Denmark in particular. They would jump above us being on a 34.3. We could still keep where we are if we can just find a way to get 0.5, an extra point, and go above Turkey, who are on a 34.1. So we could potentially still stay where we are, but it does look like we might drop back down to 15th, at least how things are standing, and depending on how we do get on in the Champions League knockouts based on how things do look after the group stages of each European competition for this current season. But without any further ado, it is time for us to get into our very first knockout round draw for the Champions League, which we are taking part in. As we saw before, you know the teams who we could get drawn against: Barcelona, Bayern, Inter, Man City, Man United, Milan, PSG or Real Madrid. Out of those, I think we would quite like Barcelona. I do feel like we need a little bit of revenge against those guys after coming oh so close to beating them in the group stage at home over the last few seasons. But we'll get through this draw and see who we do get. First out of the hat from our side is Juventus. Which one of those teams will they get? They get Barcelona. That is the team that we wanted. So already not a good start here to this draw, but we are next up and we get Bayern Munich. That will be a very, very interesting tie. We do have a very good record so far in Europe against German teams. Of course, just then against RB Leipzig, and last season against Bayer Leverkusen, as well as the Conference League when we did take on Hertha Berlin. But this is the rest of the draw as we wait for this to happen. But we have got Bayern Munich. That is going to be a very, very tough assignment for us at the start of next week. The champions of Germany, they have been for, I think, the entirety of the save. We will have a look at these guys now that that draw has been made. Obviously a 5-star reputation club with Julian Nagelsmann these days in charge. They do have a very strong lineup. It might not look like it because some of the names are new gens these days, but it is a very, very good lineup. Top of the Bundesliga. They did win the Champions League back in 2027, so are quite recent winners of this competition. And in terms of the Bundesliga, they have won it every single season since we did start this save. If we have a quick look at the Bundesliga table, they are 16 points in front of RB Leipzig after only playing 16 games. They are well and truly the best team in Germany. This is going to be some type of step up from RB Leipzig, who we just got past before in the away league. I think we might be a team who, if we were in the Bundesliga, based on what we've seen so far from our record against German teams, we might be bridging that gap between Bayern and Leipzig a little bit closer, but we probably aren't quite up to the level that Bayern Munich are at. But it's going to be very interesting to see how we do get on against those guys at the start of next week. That is a very tough matchup, but we will see how we get on and how long our run does last in the knockouts of the Champions League. And that is what you have to look forward to at the start of next week. I'm not too sure if the video at the start of next week with that game is going to come out on the usual Tuesday morning my time, Monday night UK time, or the day after. Just not too sure how much time I'll get to do a recording on Easter Monday, but we'll see what happens. If I can get a recording done and get up to that mid-February date, I will, but that is 3 months away. We'll see how much I do get done over Easter weekend on the computer playing FM. But if you did enjoy today's episode, picking up 1 win and 1 loss to round out the group stage of the Champions League and getting drawn against Bayern Munich for the first knockout round, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video. And if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the save here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until early next week for the first knockout round of the Champions League against Bayern Munich, have a good Easter weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.